Fam, we're live now on Instagram. We're live on Facebook and YouTube.
Hey,
Natalie's coming in on
I'm coming.
Instagram. What up, fam, guys? It's a great conversation today. We're talking about. I'm waiting for Natalie to go on live. What up, Steve? That's
Hey,
my guy right there. All right, that's my guy. That's the man with all the master plan right there. All right, Natalie is live in here. All right, guys, please like and share this feed. We're talking about what to do when it feels like you want to give up. That's the topic for today. What to do when you feel like giving up. And Natalie is coming in live. There you go. Okay. All right. Yeah. So, all right. Good. We good now. I don't hear it no more. All right. So we're talking about what to do when you feel like giving up. All right. We're going a little later than we were supposed to today. It's my fault. I know I had a faculty meeting. Glad I didn't skip out because I was on a program to talk. So, but yeah, guys. So like and share this video on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. We're talking about what to do when you feel like giving up. I thought it'd be a great topic to talk about, especially at the beginning of the year, where a lot of times people find themselves being stuck with where to go, how to do it. It's very easy to get into a place of complacency, to get into a place where it feels like you can't make it, it feels like you can't win. But the whole thing is, how do I go from being in a place of confusion, lack, a misunderstanding of your gift and your purpose to finally finding your purpose and the clarity of it, which is what me and Natalie talk about really just in our coaching. And that's a part of our mission to help people find their purpose and their get clarity of that purpose. So once again, the topic is what to do when you feel like uh, you can't win. All right, Natalie, what's your 2 cents about that first off? Let's start with that part.
listen, y'all know after a certain time my kids are home, so I'm sorry, whatever you hear, Chef J, in the background. I did not prepare them. I apologize. Hopefully they'll hear me on this live and they won't make too much noise. But when you are preparing for what can go wrong. I usually tell my clients, you don't need to have a plan B when it comes to your business. Your business, like if you make up in your mind, this business is going to be successful, you shouldn't have a plan B, but you should have a plan B within the business. When the strategy that you've implemented doesn't work, what else do you have? What else are you going to do? And for me, my plan B is usually going back to the basics. Going back to the things that I did in the beginning to get me to the place of success, going back to those routine things that I did before and making that more, solidifying that more. For example, going back to working out. When I first started my business, I was working out multiple times a day. Over the course of time, working out, it was just like, it was so much stuff on my plate, I couldn't do it. Now it's like I need to get back to that because now I need to increase my capacity for more that's coming my way. And that means I need to be in better shape. I need to be in better health. I need to sleep and rest more. And working out really affords that for me.
That's dope that you say that because first thing about that part is when the best way to really start to get clarity and to really start to walk into your purpose is to really sit down and start identify what areas you need the most help in. For example, this Natalie made a good point is for her to be able to do these great things that she wants to do, she has to first prepare by working out more, eating right, managing her kids, managing her husband, and doing all of that so she can really give out the best version of herself. For me, it's what I've been doing for the last, I started probably the second day of the new year. I've been back to juicing, right? So I'm having like 1 to 2 meals a day, but I'm having about 4 juices a day because, okay, I know I need to eat all my nutrients and because I stay up late, and I'm up early. So how can I find ways to really prepare myself to really open my mindset more? Because sometimes the reason why you're not having clarity of your purpose or clarity of your gifting is because you're not taking time to prepare yourself to even think. Like every day when I wake up, my first thing is I open my heart and my mind to receive. I open my mind to be clear so that whatever is going wrong, I'm able to understand. Um, uh, it's so funny because it's this time of school year we got to put grades in, right? And so the thing about putting grades in is a lot of kids who didn't do their work the whole 2.5 months of the marking period are now rushing me to get extra credit and stuff like that, right? Now, when I thought I'm already barely good at doing paperwork anyway. Now y'all want to rush me, and so now it's like I'm not doing my job. But what I did this marketing period, I said, hey, no late assignments. You have a week to do every assignment. And that's more than enough time to do your work, because what happens is, what I've learned from myself is, when it comes to me growing and prosperous, when it comes to me really operating the fullness of my gift, I can't be pressured by other people's drama, right? So sometimes when it comes to you growing and elevating, is creating a space where, one, you're only doing what you're able to handle, right? Sometimes we try to do too much. For me, I know I always do too much. So I'm like, yo, okay, Jay, what can you do to just, what do you want to do just for the 18th of January? What's your goal for today? Only thing I set out to do was, I know I got the podcast. I got to make a few things for content. Of course, my classroom duties, but that's all I'm doing for today, because I want to be finished work by 7 o'clock today, right? That's my goal for the day. So what happens when it feels like you don't know what when it feels like you're not able to make it, are you overworking yourself so you're not really getting clarity enough to say, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this today, or maybe this is too much for you today. Just do a little bit today and do the rest tomorrow. As you start to really plan your schedule out, you start to see that, hey, it's not that I can't do everything. I just have to plan to do everything so I can be more successful. And the more I'm more successful when I plan, right? Even though sometimes we can wing it, there's nothing wrong with winging it, right? But the thing about winging it, that can't be the story of your life, right? There's certain things you have to be intentional about, because when I'm more intentional about what I do and my goals, success gets further. It's not like I just made that. It's more so like, wow, like I accomplished all these goals, and now I can enjoy the fruits of my labor.
Man, that was so good. I love how you're talking about just like maximizing the minimum, like focusing on those few things that you can do and do it well. And for me, towards the end of the year, I'll give you an example. Like my morning routine, I had 7 steps in my morning routine, and I was faithfully. My phone's breaking up.
Yeah, maybe it's my device.
Sorry. I don't know what to do.
Okay.
Is it better now?
It's better. Yeah.
Okay, so I was saying that at the end of the year, my morning routine was 7 steps, and I was faithfully doing those 7 steps at the end of the year. But by the time January rolled around, I couldn't do that anymore, because I had took a whole long 3-week break on vacation, and I could not get back into the mode of doing all those 7 things in the morning when I woke up. And so I was like, you know what? Forget this. I'm going back to the basics. So when I wake up, I drink my water, I work out, and I do my praise and worship. And that's all I'm focusing on. I am not like whatever else didn't get done in that morning routine that I have, the 7 steps. I'm not worried about it anymore. I'm not stressing myself out about it anymore. And so when I begin to do those 3 things consistently, then I'm going to be able to add more to my plate. And sometimes when you have so much going on and you get stretched to your capacity, you feel burnt out and you feel like, you know what, forget this, I'm going to give up. But that doesn't mean that you stop doing everything altogether. It just means go back to what worked. What's the bare minimum that you can do and still maximize your opportunity for success? What's the least amount of things that you can go back to that you can actually do and master well? Mm-hmm. Where do we get to master those basic things? So like you said, you wake up and you say, for today, what do I need to get done for today? Forget next 15 weeks, forget the 6 months in advance. For today, what do I need to do to complete today to maximize everything that I'm doing in my business so that I could be successful 10, 11, 12 weeks from now, but just focusing on today.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good thing about that, focus on today. And one of my mentors, we had this conversation back in 2021, and I'm just starting to implement. I'm still implementing stuff that Dr. Sasha has taught me, and that was from one conversation, right? So what I realized is, because I have like a lot of ideas, I had to learn that, okay, Jay, this may not even be the year to implement that, right? So I realized that, Josh, it's not even a year to implement this, right? But what you want to do is to start taking notes and just say, hey, this is my overall goal for the next 5 years. And sometimes that may seem like a long time, but sometimes that's the reality of some of our dreams, that we can't, it's not even a year for it. But in the process of knowing what the end is, now is my goal to really start to say, hey, what steps can I do this year to get there? What steps can I do this quarter? What steps can I do the next 6 months? What steps can I do today? Like once you start to really take things into bite-sized pieces, you're able to really process better. And there's nothing wrong with taking things slow. Like your purpose is like a dating experience, right? Where your purpose is very, very big, right? It's very exciting, is all it is, but you got to date your purpose. You got to really take time to really grow inside of it. Where it's like, you know what? Let me just examine this part of it for this month. When you start to break those goals down, it makes it so much more attainable. And a lot of times we overwork ourselves from the get go. And another thing I want to switch gears to talk about is when it comes to mindset, right? What are you allowing inside of your mind? What are you allowing inside of your thoughts? What are you viewing? What are you seeing? If you're not really like what I'm committing myself to doing is at least reading one scripture in the morning. Like that's my goal. One script, because sometimes I'm trying to read a passage and that might not be for you, right? So you might got to start with just one scripture, meditate on that throughout the day, just meditate on. Even two, maybe you might need to listen to an e-sermon or an e-book, just something every day to edify yourself, because you got to think 9 times out of 10, if it's 24 hours in the day, right? There's so many negative things coming our way that we have to literally infuse positive things inside of our life, into our daily interactions, because if we don't infuse it, we start to lose control over who's influencing us, right? Even to, especially with the holiday season that just left us, like depression is so high. Why is it high? What are you allowing inside of your thought process? What are you focusing on? Because if you realize the things you start to meditate on is what you're going to start to really attract. My pastor always says that if you want to know what somebody's heart is, check out their bank account. What you spend your money on, I love that with the phone, it tells you what you've been doing the last 24 hours. Because it lets you know that, hey, what is my productivity level? Who am I engaging? Am I on social media a lot? Am I doing this a lot? And it's no judgment in any area, but it's just a thought process to say, hey, in this part of my life, I want to work on X, Y, and Z. I want to be better at X, Y, and Z. But it starts with you first being honest with yourself to say, hey, this is where my life is right now. This is where I want to go. So, God, what are the steps I need to take? Whether it's baby steps or big steps, whether it's small faith moves or big. It says it takes a faith the size of a mustard seed, right? So sometimes when you try to do these big projects, you might need to start small and say, hey, let me take this little ounce of faith and let me make the small jump. Because sometimes you're not really ready for the big because you haven't prepared for the small. Right? If you keep trying to jump for big things and you ain't never practiced for that, what you think gonna happen?
What you think gonna happen if you never practice for it? Come on, you got to make those small steps first before you can make those giant leaps. And I have to go back to one thing that you said and really emphasize this part is there's nothing wrong with taking things slow. Like we always want to speed and we live in this, like they call the microwave culture where everything has to be, quick, fast, and in a hurry. But there's nothing wrong with taking things slow. And when I read the Bible, I was reading the Bible recently and I was like, I ain't never seen Jesus running nowhere. I ain't never seen him out of breath, like, oh, I just late. Like doesn't have that attitude. Wherever he gets to a certain place, he's always on time. And sometimes he's even early because he sat at the well and waited for the woman to come to the well. He sat and he waited for her. So we have to get into that mindset that there's nothing wrong with pulling back the pace at some point in your life. I know when it comes to running, like long distance runners, when they're running or training for a race, they do what's called pace racing, where they'll speed up and then they'll slow down and then they'll speed up again and then they'll slow down. They're always adjusting their pace when they're training because it builds up more endurance. And sometimes we have to slow down to adjust our pace because the next season we may need to be running really, really fast, but we cannot always maintain that pace or that speed of doing things so quickly or so fast or so in a hurry, because it takes away from us being able to see the details in the matter when we rush and when we do things so fast. So there are moments where you need to slow down, which is the first thing I want to mention. Thank you for saying that. The second thing you talked about was giving attention to who you're listening to. guard your ears. When you start to grow, especially when it comes to business, and you start to be exposed to different people, there's so many people that are really profound, that speak a good word. There's so many people out there that say a whole lot of things about a whole lot of things, and you feel like you need to be in every single room. But it's okay when you feel that place where you're discouraged, or you feel like you're overwhelmed, to pull back and to say, you know what, I'm not going to listen to everybody. I'm just going to attune my ears to this one person, or I'm just going to tune into these one or two or three particular things, but I'm not going to trust my ears to everyone, because right now I'm in a place where I need to be watered, and I need to soak in more encouragement, because there's so many things, like you said, that come at us throughout the day that will discourage us. Just going on social media, and you know how people be posting their, highlights and everything, and you're like, man, I ain't even doing it. I ain't make, 5K this month. I didn't get 25 clients. Oh, my messaging is not on point like that, because you get discouraged everything that you see and hear. And there are times where you have to just pull back, focus, and listen to one voice. For me, in one season, it was just ET. Everything that came out of ET was what I needed to hear. And I said, I'm just going to focus on this voice right here, because I need to be worded, I need to be built up, and I need to be encouraged, because it was just such a dark period in my life at that time. So good points. Good points.
Yeah, that's good. I want to go back to what you said about slowing down, and I thought about the quote: "The devil is in the details." A lot of times, things seem simple, right? But then what happens is when you don't really work on the details, you start to really get distracted, and then you realize you didn't count the cost. We spoke about that a few weeks ago, about counting the cost. So what happened is when you are working on different projects, it's okay to take your time, because you really want to iron out the kinks in the details, right? The thing about, like, for example, this grass wall behind me, right? When I first ordered the grass wall, I could have been just like, oh, I'm gonna order this, and this. No, I had to measure it, right? Once I measured, I had to see, okay, how many came in a pack. Like, especially when I'm doing menu planning, when I do menus, I have to really go through all of that stuff. Okay, like right now, a client is texting me. She's saying, I got this amount of adults, this amount of kids. So my thing is, okay, cool. So how many portions do I need for adults? How many things I need to order, right? How much of this I need to order? Because when you're not paying attention to that part, you run out. Especially, like, I teach like 120 kids a day, right? So, or maybe more than that. So imagine going food shopping for 120 people. Most people used to go food shopping for their family and they run out. So imagine going food shopping for 120 people every single week. I have to think about how many pieces of chicken do I need? How many eggs do I need? The reason why those details are important. So when it comes to really mastering my craft, I can say I accounted the cost, which now makes me successful. There are a lot of times the reason why we're not successful is we're not counting the cost, and we're really not paying attention to those details. Those details always matter. Details matter. The reason why some people are not making the money in the press because people aren't supporting their business, you're not detail oriented about your business. And when I go to so many different places, sometimes people like going out with me because I don't criticize, I do pay attention to everything, right? So they're like, man, you notice everything. I said the reason why I notice everything is when it comes to my business, I think about how much people pay to come to me, right? Because I'm not cheap. So I'll say that right now. So I'm not cheap. So when you plan a dinner party with me, I'm thinking about, okay, what flowers do I need for the table? How many candles do I need? How many balloons do I need? How much food? Like, I got to think about all of this stuff because I want to count the costs and make sure I'm providing people an experience. When people encounter you, do they encounter experience or do they encounter a mess? Do they encounter a dope experience? Do they encounter like, ooh, I can't wait. I don't ever want to come back here again. Right. So when it comes to your craft and your business, sometimes we're just not we're not providing quality, we're providing quantity. And quantity is always not the name of the game. When I used to sell dinners, I used to have a goal of how many dinners I want to sell versus now I'm like, that's cool. But in order for me to maximize my profit, I have to make sure I'm producing quality because I can produce a dope dinner experience, which equivalent to maybe like 200 dinners I sell. So if I can just do that with 10 people, let me focus on this 10 people, this event, I can make it perfect. When it comes to the business you want to start, when it comes to your craft, when it comes to your job, when it comes to whatever it is, are you producing excellence by being detail oriented? Even when I'm grading all these papers and stuff like that, and with my students, when I'm very detailed with the instructions I give out. So I give out one, I do a demo. I talk fast, so I know I write the notes down. So they have the notes. The third thing is I let them record videos of it and they take their own notes. So I give out 4 resources for my students to be successful when it comes to lab. If I went too fast in the lab, they have a video. If I spoke too fast, they have the notes. So I make sure everybody is aware of what is available for them to be successful. But now when it comes to us, when it comes to them being in lab to actually perform, some of them do well, and I'm like, hey, but I gave you 4 resources. Oh, I remember that. Okay, so what did you read the notes again? Oh, I didn't get a chance to read it. So now it's like what happens is in life is we're not really running the play because we got the play, but we're not taking time to be thorough and pay attention to the details. Because what happens is sometimes life will be so much easier and it's less mindful for you to give up if you pay attention to the details. Sometimes the reason why you're giving up because you haven't paid attention to step 3, 4, 5, 6. You just went to 1 and jumped to 10, and you wonder why you're not doing well at what you do.
Oh man, that was so good. That was so good. Cassandra on Facebook said yes to a dope experience, and I have to agree. Man, you said so much in that short period of time, but I feel like the whole theme of what we're saying today is that less is more. We feel
Mhm.
like more is more, and it's not really more. Less is more. So now, when I say less is more, you said focus on quality as opposed to quantity. So you could provide an okay experience to 100 people, and which is equivalent to a dope experience to 10 people. But that means
Mhm.
the price is going to go up, and the quality and the service and the attention that you're going to have to give to those people are going to increase. But then that pulls away from less stress because the level of people that you're going to be dealing with, say you charge $100 a plate, that's a different caliber of people than $1,000 a plate.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
that
But then
part.
now you have, oh, thank you, Cassandra, value over volume. Now you have the ability to focus on less people, give them more of who you are, and create a phenomenal experience for them. I remember when I first started coaching, I was charging $20 an hour. Yes, y'all, I was charging $20 an hour. Okay. And the level of clientele that I got for $20 an hour is completely different to what I charge now, which is $400 for 2 hours, so about $200 an hour, which is the price is definitely going to increase by January 31st, because what has been happening is over the course of time, I found ways to increase the value even within the $400 slot. So I'm for those that are paying $400 or $200 an hour, they're getting more than what the value or the worth that I apply to it is. So now that when I'm raising my prices, I'm now going to be positioned to attract a different caliber of people. They're going to get a phenomenal experience, but now
Mhm.
I'm less stressed, I'm less overwhelmed, I'm less discouraged because I'm not focusing on the masses. I'm focusing on the percentage, a smaller percent of people who are willing, because like you said, your heart is your treasure is where your heart is, who are saying,
Mhm.
you know what, I value what you have to bring to the table, that I'm going to pay you this amount of money so that you can help me take my business from level A to level C, D, E, F, or wherever it needs to be. But now I am not so stressed because I'm not looking at the volume. I'm
Yeah.
not looking to serve every single person in the whole wide world. I'm just looking for a small percentage of people within my niche who are willing to go to the next level and who are willing to pay to go to the next level. So that was
That's
good.
good.
Less is more.
It's funny that you say that part because I think about sometimes, let's say we get into partnerships with people who are quote unquote selfish, right? I've realized one thing about people who appear to be selfish is not that they're selfish, they're just they're caring about their own intent, right? And I realize people who are deemed to be selfish are always at peace. Like they don't ever be worried about anything because they know that at this point they're the only person that matters in the situation. And meanwhile, you're trying to really be nice to people, help them out, and they all stress free because they only worry about themselves. Like sometimes you have to get to the point where you worry about yourself first. You put yourself first. There's nothing wrong with putting you first. It's nothing like Natalie is a mom, she's a wife, she's a business owner, but Natalie has to put herself first because How good is Natalie gonna be if she gives everything to everybody else and then now she has nothing left for herself? The first person to worry about every morning is yourself. What are you doing in the first thing in the morning to focus on you and nobody else? For me, I had to realize that, to the point where every morning I take at least 20, 30 minutes just to just chill out, just to relax, because I know once I get my feet out the bed, the whole day is going to be crazy because I have a lot of people that I have to really not worry about, but to manage. When you manage a lot of people or things, you have to get to a point where it's like, hey, no, 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 no. Let's pause this because I have to really focus on myself first. Because once you focus on yourself first, you're now able to really help other people. You can't give 100% to your day when you didn't give enough to yourself first. The first thing of your day is how am I going to add to myself? How am I going to focus on myself? And then I'm able to give to others. Because sometimes we're clouded with everybody else's junk that we didn't even get to process our own emotions, our own feelings. So if you don't take time to focus on yourself, focus on your own emotions, focus on your own insecurities, your own areas of growth, you're giving to people from an empty cup. And I'm not trying to be funny. After a while, that empty cup gets real dry, and you wonder why you're feeling hurt because people ain't giving you what you give back to them. You wonder why things aren't growing because you have not taken time to put yourself first. And putting yourself there is nothing wrong with it. Nothing at all.
Nothing at all. And you know what? It's not selfish because selfishness is lacking consideration for others. It's actually honoring yourself. It's actually saying, Sadie, it's
He's
even
like,
the dog acting up.
Sadie would have been a podcast too.
Oh my gosh. Honoring yourself is valuing yourself and respecting yourself. And how will other people know how to honor and value you if you don't do it first? You got to be the first one to show them how to value you, how much you are worth. Like, my time is worth a whole lot. So you can't just call me at any time. You can't just send me a message at any time and expect me to respond to you. And that's how we have to look at ourselves. Like, I have to honor myself before I can honor other people. Sometimes you got to do it that way. And it's not selfish. It's not people. I feel like the church, anyway, I won't say the world because the world is very good about honoring themselves, but the church is like, love others above yourself. And the Bible says, love others as yourself. Even when the translation says above, it really means to take in consideration how you treat yourself, and the same honor and respect that you give to yourself, you must give to other people as well. So it goes in tandem with each other, not one or the other. And we forget that. We give everything to everybody else and think we're going to be a martyr. But if you're dead, who can be served by you? If you're not breathing, how are they going to get what you got? You got to know how to revive yourself in order to give to other people. I can't give birth to another human being if I'm dead. A dead woman does not give birth.
That's good. And I think it also comes about how do you value yourself? A lot of times we're in situations where we want to give to people, and our giving is how we show our value. Like, we feel that our gift is who we are, when honestly, your gift is a part of you, your business is a part of you, but you're not your business, right? So if I want to value, I have to value myself first and show that I value myself. And a lot of times, things that we do show that we don't value ourselves. This past weekend, I had a really dope experience just hanging out with one of my friends, and we had like a lot of good conversation about just value. And what happens is the first thing about value is self-care. So if you're not taking care of you first with self-care, a lot of times it's very easy for depression to come about because you become stressed out because you haven't taken care of you. And sometimes taking care of you may be go and get your nails done, go to the spa, read a book, go away once or twice a month. Like, you got to find things that work for you because everybody's goal is different. Everybody happiness is different. Once you start to find your peace, maintain that peace and always want to grow in your peace. Because it's very easy for people to disrupt your peace when you haven't established what your peace looks like. So if you haven't taken time to establish what your peace looks like, taking time to establish what works for you, what does not work for you. Like, this semester, I was so serious about no late assignments. They think it's one per if a kid give me 5 late assignments and I have 120 something kids, I'm gonna be burnt out. So because I don't like to be burnt out, I've learned to be real with myself, say, no, this does not work for me. I've learned to even establish what things work for me, what doesn't. And the sooner I establish what works for me, what doesn't, and not being timid about expressing that, I have such a level of peace in my life because a lot of times the people that you're producing for, the people that you're giving to, could care less about how you feel. And they'll keep having their cup out because you keep pouring like a fool. Not saying, yo, they never think about me. Have you instructed them how to think about you? Have you taught people how to receive you? Have you taught people how to be around you? Like? You got to create expectations. And honestly, sometimes the first time I meet people, I establish my expectations, and it's not a bad thing because if you want to be around me, I have to let you know what works for me, and I expect the same for the other person. No, let me know what works for you because I want to make sure I'm starting this partnership off with respect and understanding. So this way we can have a successful collaboration where we don't feel like we have to be timid about expressing ourselves. The whole thing is that self-care, the whole part about you really establishing what your piece looks like. What does your piece look like? What helps you create the piece that creates people to realize your value? People see how good you are, but some people don't see your value. Some people see that you can do X, Y, and B. They don't always see your value. And sometimes your value is saying, okay, you see my gift, but this is the price you have to pay to get that gift from me. Because every gift can't be for free. Because you'll keep being burnt out, and next you realize that you're so tired one day, and then when everything kind of hits the fan, you're burnt out, and you're not even able to really just live the life you want to live because you're burnt out and you're not happy. And it's just like it takes time for you to really just focus on what works for you. And when you feel like what works for you, you'll be so much happier.
Listen, Sadie over here acting up. So I'm going to say this real quick before she come back. Your value is not your price. And people sometimes equate value with a price tag. Now, there's always going to be a cost in every relationship that you go in. So if you have a friendship, it may cost. Reciprocity is the other person needs to be a good friend as well. If you have a business partnership, it may cost that you bring your knowledge and your expertise to it. The other person brings their knowledge and expertise, and you collaborate and make something beautiful together. It doesn't always mean it doesn't always have a monetary value that comes along with it. Now, in a business relationship where you're selling something, yes, there has to be a monetary value. And some people try to take, but you know what I mean. I'm going to go ahead and put myself on mute because y'all understand what I'm saying. Sadie out here talking too loud.
Listen, that's like Shay's like this is my house at this point. But that is so true. When you come to a place where you want to really start living your best life, you have to be okay with expressing what works for you. What does my value look like? How do I bring? When you start to realize who you are, you start to realize that hey, no, I'm dope at what I'm do. No, I'm a blessing to be around. You start to really change your level of your output level, right? Because once you know you're valuable, you start to move differently. Once I realized I was a real dope teacher, I really started to require more of the places that I work because, like, you see these kids really learning. So I'm going to start demanding X, Y, and Z. And it's not a bad thing. When you go into rooms, when you go into circles, you want to be humble, but you also want to establish what your value is. Because sometimes when you don't know what to do and seems like it's stressing you out, you want to write down your goals, write down what makes me belong in this room. What makes me deserve this opportunity? Because once you start writing these things down, you start to see that, wait, hold on. No, I belong here. I belong in this circle. I belong in this room. Especially too, like growing up, my mom was very big on like Black culture things, but she also exposed us to different cultures. But one time when I was teaching in Jersey City, I took a group of, all Black kids to an event at the state Capitol House where it was nothing but white people. And the kids who are the loudest were so shy and it was quiet. I'm like, why y'all being so weird? And they was like, we don't really like white people like that. Like, they had but it was coming from a place of inferiority. So I said, listen, you never know what they need from you. So sometimes closed mouths get fed because you're not really showcasing your value, or you're timid because of what people said about this group of people or this and that. One thing I realized when Chef J comes in the room, I'm going to be who I am authentically because people are naturally attracted to what I have to offer. Like this whole weekend, literally every single place I went to, so people was asking my business card. They were just wondering who I was. So when you start to really establish your value in the marketplace, in the world, and everyday living, you'll start to see that people want you where you are. They want you in the room. But until you realize that you're valuable, you're going to keep going through the same crappy situations. You're going to go to the same people trying to, I don't want to say Jew you down. That's not appropriate. People trying to rip you off. Like you'll try to see these things because you have not taken time to really allow yourself to discover your value and your worth. Things become much easier when you establish your worth. Things becomes less difficult when you establish your worth because now you have set an expectation of how when you come in a room, this is how you will receive me. When I hire an artist, I know one time I was playing this event, I had to hire an artist, um, and she told me the fee fee was like 10K. She told me where she wanted to stay. She had said what she wanted her dressing room. She said where she wanted to stay, the level of star she wanted to stay, what she wanted to be picked up. And some people like, oh, that's doing too much. But that's her level of expectation. You can pay the contract or not. So the more you start to establish who you are in the atmosphere and the earth, people will respect that based of how you show up and how you show your value.
That's all I got. Amen. Praise God. I ain't got nothing else to add because I'm afraid that these kids in city gonna start getting loud.
Oh yeah, so we're gonna wrap. We just say 5:11. We're gonna wrap it up, guys. So if you're looking for coaching for clarity, you want to hit Natalie up. You're looking for coaching of finding your purpose. Hit me up. I also have an e-course that you can check out. It's like three lessons that's gonna be really dope to change your life. Listen, if you're really ready to win, if you're ready to establish your value, if you're ready to get clarity, if you want to know your purpose, we are here to help you guys. DM us because the thing about it is, like I say all the time, closed mouth don't get fed. But in addition to that part, if you're really ready, if you really think 2023 gonna be a year, show up. If you really think that 2023 is going to be a year, show up and show
Show
out.
up.
You can't expect to show out if you haven't showed up.
Come on.
So we're gonna wrap it up, guys. Have a super dope week on purpose. And that's it, fam. Just know that you are designed to win. You are more than a conqueror. You are born to be whoever God designed you to be, but you have to take time to find it out for yourself. You gotta take time
Yeah.
to find out what is your purpose, what is my vision, what works for me, what doesn't work for me. And when I realize the more I deal with people who in my personal space who don't know who they are, the more I get stressed out. So when people don't know who I have to eliminate them from being like in my personal space because one thing about me, I know where I'm going. And I only want to attach myself to people who are seeking the same. You might not know it right away, but if you're seeking that level of growth in an area in life, listen, connect with us because we're about winning, we're about growing. We're about talking about real stuff that really is bothering us because we all go through, but the whole goal is we're going through to get to the expected end. And that's it, fam. All right, we out.